Hey guys, my name is Jeremy Kell7EC. I'm a solo content creator in the state of Alaska. If this is your first time visiting the channel, please think about hitting that subscribe button and follow me on all of my Alaska adventures. Portable operations, mostly doing parks on the air. And this is week 2 of my CW journey. All right, you guys ready? Let's go. Alright, we are on week 2 of learning CW, or Morse code. So as far as the characters, I really haven't learned anything more. I'm just using what I've learned so far and kind of playing them over and over and over. And I'll get to that in a moment while I'm doing that. I want to thank all of you guys who have reached out through email and encouraged me or gave me suggestions or information on learning CW. So one thing that I've noticed through this whole process is, I remember back in school, you have your visual learners, you have to read a textbook learners, and then you have those hands-on learners. And depending on which learner you are is going to depend on how you learn CW or how you learn anything new as far as that goes. So there's a lot of different ways to learn CW. I don't think one way is better than the other. I think it's all tailored to how exactly you learn. And until you find how you learn, then you can find the program of learning Morse code to better suit you. So I'm still using the Morse Code Ninja. I have an hour commute to work, hour commute back. So I'm listening to that on the way to work and then on the way back. I'm usually listening to the same lessons twice a day, or maybe even going into that next day. But that's kind of how I learn. So I did run into my first plateau, but I think a lot of you guys can relate to this. It's when you hear those characters A, and then C, and then D, and then E. How sometimes you hear the first one, but usually you're trying to think of the first one, or you're trying to relate that sound to a character, or however you're learning. But by the time you get that first character, it could be on the third character or the fourth character. So that's kind of the plateau that I've ran into, or the roadblock that I've ran into. But that's all part of it, right? And I want to read a little bit of an email that Russ sent. And I apologize, Russ, I don't know your call. Kind of explaining some of the things. What I really want to look at is what they're calling stage 1 and stage 2. So stage 1 is a short-term memory process. Stage 2 is your long-term memory process. Now, for instance, you're out on the activation, and let's say you get 10 contacts. Let's say one of those 10 contacts has contacted you many times while you're at a park, right? So a week goes by, and somebody says, well, how many contacts did you get at that park? Well, I got 10. Can you tell me who all contacted you? No, but I can tell you one. Because that one contact that's contacted you over and over has went from your short-term memory into your long-term memory. Or another instance is if somebody gives you a phone number, a couple minutes later, hey, what was that phone number? Oh, you can usually tell them. A week goes by, hey, what's that phone number? Well, I don't know it. But if somebody tells you the phone number and you say it over and over and over again in your mind, a week later, somebody asks you, you might be able to tell it because it's been moved from your short-term memory to your long-term memory. Now, I'm no expert at any of this, so I'm not sure exactly how long it takes for that process to happen from going to short-term memory to long-term memory, but that's just a scenario. So I was born in the early 1980s, and growing up in the 90s, and as you know, Atari in the early 80s, I think it was, and Nintendo started coming out, and then you know, the Super Nintendos and then the PlayStations. I played a little bit of the games. I was never a gamer, but I did enjoy playing some of them, and one in particular was Mortal Kombat. And if you've ever played Mortal Kombat and some of the other games as well, there was always a cheat code that you could use to do something incredible. So is there a cheat code to learning Morse code? And I think there is. I found it. Well, I didn't find it, but you guys had mentioned it. A couple of you guys have, and I really appreciate that. in your everyday life, when you're not learning CW, if you're, you know, at work, or you're going through the grocery store, or there's a car passing you on the highway and you see the license plate, bang off that license plate number in CW. Or if there's a word or something that you come across, you're at work, you're reading the paper, you're, you know, scrolling through the computer, you see a word, bang off that word in Morse code. You don't have to particularly know all the characters, but the ones you do, go ahead and say them. And what I think that does, and what it helps, is moving that information from your short-term memory process to your long-term memory process. So now when you hear those words, because we can access our long-term memory much quicker than we can our short-term memory, and then you kind of pick up that character, or you know that character right away, however you're learning. But by all means, I am no expert at Morse code, by no means. I'm just trying to learn it, and I'm trying to figure out the best way for me to learn it. It might not be the best way for you, it might be the best way for you, but I want to share this process of me learning, because maybe it'll help somebody. I've gotten quite a few emails from you guys saying that, hey Jeremy, I've seen your video, it's really inspired me to start learning CW again, or start learning it altogether. And those emails have been absolutely astonishing to me. I love reading stuff like that. So again, I'm listening to Morse Code Ninja on the way to work, on the way back, and I usually have my hand here, and I'm hitting my makeshift key, or my air key, if you will, as I hear those characters. And then when I get home, I'm practicing the characters I've learned on the keyer itself. I do a little bit with the FT-891, but I do a lot with the TX, the 500, the little portable rig. Here's kind of the setup, and you know, I can take this upstairs, or even here in the radio room. And the good thing about this is when I'm doing it, it also has a decoder, so as I'm hitting the characters on the key, it will send, it will decode what I just sent on the screen, which is pretty neat. It's just kind of a way I can check myself to make sure that I'm sending the right characters. So I'll kind of show you a little bit. So that's been my journey for learning Morse code for week 2. I appreciate you guys watching and following me on my journey. And until next time, 7-3.